Hello, everybody. Welcome to episode number 2 of On Deck with Maestro. I'm Costas Rotomapa, Artistic and Dreamland Director of Opera Santa Barbara, and my guest is going to be Max Potter. Now, for those of you who did not watch the first episode, this is a series that Opera Santa Barbara just started producing, and the plan is about a month or so, we're going to have a colleague, an artist or a professional from the performing arts talk about themselves, their career, the things that are important to them, the industry, and we're going to see what trouble we can get into here. At the first episode, my guest was Nina Dunbar, who is our Deputy General Director, and for the second episode, we're kind of still keeping it close to home while I'm figuring out how to do this. I'm making it easier on myself. So our guest is the lovely Max Potter, who is a mezzo-soprano, who was a Christmas studio artist with Opera Santa Barbara, came here in the middle of the pandemic, and 6 years later, she still lives here. I often refer to her as the first live voice that Santa Barbara heard during the pandemic. She may mention that down the road at some point. And in addition to being a fantastic singer, she also doubles as a social media guru, and she's also an entrepreneur. She has her own digital media company with her partner. And she is also a restless thinker, observer of the industry. She has a lot of opinions, so the two of us have a lot of fun. We're going to try to keep most of the most controversial ones off this interview, or we'll cut them later. So meanwhile, welcome, Max.
Thank you. What an intro.
I know. I hadn't even planned it. So it was from the heart.
Thank you.
So, as I said, first of all, before we get to the here and now, actually, I'm not sure I ever asked just a little bit about your path through life and opera before you got to Santa Barbara.
Oh man.
Where are you from? Where you studied? Anything you want to tell us about that? And also, why would a young person in the early 21st century decide to be an opera singer?
So that is a particularly interesting question. A little bit about me. I grew up in the DC area, and actually my first performing was in bars with my dad, who is a luthier and jazz guitarist.
Awesome.
And so I grew up singing Patsy Cline, Bonnie Raitt. Oh man, I can't even remember all of the standards we used to do, Great American Songbook, things like that. And when I started looking at private high schools, one of the ways that I could get a good education, because my dad was an artist, was getting into the Washington National Cathedral's choral program. And they paid for a good percentage of my high school tuition.
Amazing.
And I learned how to be a professional musician starting in my freshman year of high school.
Oh yeah, that explains a lot.
Yeah. And then during my time there, I was studying with a couple teachers through the choir that were wonderful. And one of them said to me, you really have a gift for classical music. I think you should explore it a little bit more, because I thought I wanted to be a pop star. There it is. And as I started...
A star is a star.
Right, exactly. And not only was I a terrible dancer, I was a terrible dancer, but I started to fall in love with the different languages. I fell in love with the history behind opera, all of the dramatic concepts of it. And I very clearly remember being in a musical theater class in my junior year and seeing the Berlin Bohème with Pavarotti and Freni.
Okay.
And that was it. I just knew I had to spend my whole life around this music and this art form.
Yeah. Well, I asked you that question about why you wanted to be an opera singer by popular demand, because that's something that people always want to know about opera singers. And it's really hard to explain, isn't it? I mean, opera is a thing.
It
and
is.
If you're exposed to it, that's your life changes.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not. I mean, a lot of people get exposed to it and they don't like it, which is fine. But if it hits you the right way, you never forget it, and it's a thing.
Well, I think that one of the things you said in the first episode is not every opera goer is the same. Not
Right.
every first-time opera goer is the same, right? So while Bohème hit me like that,
Right.
Carmen might hit someone else like that
The
in a
funny
way
thing is
that Puccini doesn't.
And here you are, mezzo-soprano, so there's no role for you in Bohème.
Tragedy.
So you arrived here, you drove across the country in January 2021.
Yeah.
Yes, for a contract that had been delayed by 6 months or whatever.
Yeah.
And then you still live here.
Yeah.
So tell us about what have the last 6 years been like? I mean, it's pretty unusual. I mean, there are not a lot of opera singers who moved to Santa Barbara from another part of the country.
From New York City.
Or at least not for 6 years,
Right.
or that made their home. So what happened?
Well, first of all, it was the pandemic and no one knew what was going on, right? And
Right.
as a singer who was in New York City, stuck in my apartment, having you come in and be like, hey, if you can get out here, you can work. I was like, all right, sure. And then we got here and I fell in love with the company. I fell in love with everyone here. We love the city. And the truth was that, like, even at that point in the pandemic, after we had done Rheingold, singers weren't working. And you said, if you stay, you will work. And I didn't have that guarantee anywhere else. And here I am. And the amount of growth that being here has afforded me, especially working with you and working with Tim, I would never have gotten that anywhere else. I would never have the roles under my belt that I have now if I hadn't been here. And on top of that, it's just a gorgeous place to live. I mean, my dream, my long-term dream was to end up in a city like this and just travel to my gigs, and here I am.
So you touched on it, and I want to hear. I know you you and I have talked about this on and off, and I know it's a big topic among artists. You know, building a career as an opera singer is hard under any circumstances. Mm-hmm. But being at that, like basically at your high point of young artist programs, and being hit by 2 years of closure and the devastation that the pandemic caused in the business, it's been harder than any other time. It's an uncharted territory. I mean, people who had a lot of work don't have work.
Yeah.
But here you are. You're growing as an artist. You have work.
I do.
So tell us about that. What has this journey been?
Well, so in a lot of ways I was lucky because I had this parallel career of doing marketing. So not only did I see the side of what was going on as a performer, I also saw the other side of it, of what companies were worrying about, what even A-list artists were worried about, right?
Sure.
It was something that made me realize that the way we had conceptualized the opera industry as a whole could not exist anymore in the capacity that it had been existing in, right? Yeah. I think that we had been doing a lot of the Emperor's New Clothes. What is that? What is that?
The Emperor is naked or something?
Yeah, I don't know.
There were a lot of things that what you're trying to say, that there were a lot of things that were wrong but wouldn't admit it, and now we were forced to admit it, or that's the metaphor that you
yes.
use.
So I think that we were just in a situation with our industry where we were all chugging along hoping it could just keep going the way it was, and then we were hit by a brick wall that said actually everything has to change.
Right.
And for me, I had diligently been like trying to fit in the box, trying to climb the ladder that I had been told I had to climb, and I realized that ladder really doesn't exist anymore.
Right.
So it actually gave me permission to embrace all of my skills as a professional, not just as a performer, but also as a marketer and a PR specialist, and dive into both like wholeheartedly. And the truth is that for any artist out there who's my generation and younger, I super strongly recommend finding other things that you're passionate about, because even our top tier stars are struggling to find work, are struggling to stay employed. And if you can diversify your constellation of expertise, that makes you infinitely more valuable to an industry that needs all the help it can get right now.
Well, you also first of all, aside from this being a very realistic and true bit of advice, I think it's also you are offering a richer, more multifaceted brand as an artist.
Yeah.
I mean, I think you're you're very unique, and a lot of our favorite artists here. So you have attitude.
I sure do.
You have, not in a bad way, It's just because there's a lot of material there.
Yes.
Just show up and sing.
Right.
You bring some things to it that are very unique.
Thank
It's
you.
a unique combination of things. You're able to sing. You're able to sing roles. You're able to grow. You travel a little bit. But I I find that watching what other artists your age are doing right now, it's a pretty big achievement, in my opinion.
Yeah, well, and one of the things that I try to remind our industry of is you've created an entire population of people who speak multiple languages, think abstractly, are insanely creative, are super personable, and we can't just expect those people to sit at home and wait for you to call on them to do their work, right?
I love that.
So
artists are very, 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 very smart people.
they are. They're like the smartest people
Yeah.
because they have to be, right?
Yeah. So I mean, I think artists have the capability of, uh, if they put the time, and they could be running the world, and it would be a whole lot better place.
I agree. I 100% agree.
So what's the day to day you have? You know, you're doing a lot of singing. You're preparing for a big role here at Opera Santa Barbara, which we'll talk about in just a little bit.
Yes.
But how do you balance? And you sing elsewhere, and you're a singer. You know, at least I would say first and foremost. I don't know if you consider that first and foremost. Probably your business clients maybe see you as a marketing person first and foremost. And we're also your client.
Yes.
In full disclosure. But how do you balance this? This doing a lot of different things, and you have clients. You have a lot of meetings. You have clients worldwide. You have different clients.
Mm-hmm.
You're kind of have to navigate. I mean, navigating PR for different companies and different artists it's gotta be kind of madness. I mean, because everybody has their own madness, and you kind of have to buy into that before you promote it, right?
Yeah. Well,
so how do you balance that with being an artist yourself?
What was it we were saying earlier? I'm insane, so I'm going to succeed.
Yeah, exactly.
For me, it's really just about diligent time management. I have a very strict schedule every day that I stick to. I get up super early, and I make sure that I plan out my entire day.
Wow.
First thing in the morning when I'm drinking my coffee and eating my breakfast. And I absolutely stick to that. And whatever doesn't fit into that schedule, I move it to the next day.
Yeah, great.
So it's and also it's a little bit
You
about
should come help me run the company.
right? It's also a little bit about dividing the brain, right?
Yeah, of course.
So
Of course. Tell us about what's the story behind Digital, your business with Antonio Mendozona, and where did you guys, how did you end up starting it, and I know that you have a sense of mission. This is not just about, paying rent.
Right.
What do you hope that Digital is going to bring to our industry?
So first and foremost, Digital started as an education company, and our first client ever was the San Francisco Opera's Marilla Young Artist Program. And where that all came from was that Antonio and I had been running accounts for these A-list classical musicians for a few years, and we continually had artists at all levels asking us for help, asking us for tips, and we just said, you know what? There's a space in this market to actually educate people about this from the perspective of people who do it all the time. And as we continued heading in that direction, we had artists reach out to us and ask if we offered strategy, offered social media management, things like that. And our first client was the soprano Jennifer Rowley, who has been a huge champion for us. And she really believes in what we do, and she let us...
Really good singer, too.
She's a fantastic singer. And she let us basically learn with her, which was really
Amazing.
Incredible. And from there, our roster has just grown. Nathan Granner is another client of ours, and we love working with him. And really, our mission is to be available to people at all levels of the industry, from young artists to superstars to everyone in between, to companies, to choral organizations. We even run the marketing for my dad's violin shop, so we're also in for-profit or industry as well. And
I think that's very important.
Yeah.
As I was said with Nina last time, I think our sector has a lot to learn from it. We should be learning more
Yeah.
from the for-profit sector. I think we're giving ourselves an
Absolutely.
easy pass sometimes by calling, no, we're non-profit.
Yeah.
But I think that's definitely, it's got to be very enriching, and I've seen the pragmatism and the focus that
Yeah.
you and Anthony bring to
Well,
this business.
you know,
as a result of that.
Right. Well, and a major part of that is the fact that the truth is that you're selling tickets. You're a nonprofit, but you have a thing to sell, and the principles remain the same about finding a target audience, figuring out what they want, figuring out what makes them happy, figuring out what enriches their life and how you can do that. And it's really no different than selling anything, right? The principles remain the same. It's knowing your audience and what their needs are and what they need to make themselves happy that is the trick. And so it really is enriching for us to work in multiple facets of this industry, because not only do we get to see the entirety of the classical music audience, we also get to see the entirety of the people who are making it happen at these different orgs and artists who are living their lives.
Right.
We even offer sliding scale options for artists if perhaps our price point is too high. We find a way to help them. We find a way to educate them, because the truth is, we believe that good marketing is the fix to what we consider classical music's access problem.
Oh, I love that. Tell us more about that, because I was going to say, you have a unique vantage point because you get the 30,000 feet view. You're an artist yourself, so you're in the weeds. So you work with producers, you have colleagues, you have younger colleagues, you have older colleagues, from A-listers to small regional companies like ours. So a lot of discussion about the arts and the future of the arts. You have a lot of people who love the arts, but they're worried about the future of the arts. And there's always these things in the news that our heart is like, oh my God, this. Are we selling tickets? Are we not selling tickets? What's the solution? This company is doing that. The other company is doing the other. And it's sort of this. I think a lot of arts fans, like opera fans, are uneasy about what they're concerned that the industry overall is in trouble, or that the industry doesn't have direction or whatever. And that's beyond, I don't think there's any question about the art form itself. I mean, opera is great, we love it, and I think most people agree that that's not a problem.
Right.
So what do you say to people who are, want to know more about the state of the industry? What's your perspective? What do you see out there? What do you think is going to, what do you predict is going to happen?
I can't predict the future. I'm going to start with that.
Right.
However.
Oh, but you have to try.
I know. Well, I think that the future of our art form, this is going to sound really cheesy, is actually in the hands of the generation that is coming up in their late 20s, early 30s right now,
right.
Because they were forced to figure it out through the pandemic.
You mean the people who are from inside the industry, right?
Yeah.
Okay, yes.
Yeah, and they were forced to go online. They were forced to figure out all of these digital mediums.
Right.
And the truth is that anyone who is on a stage as a performer is the front line to developing a new audience. And so I say a lot that anyone who is on a stage is the front line to new audiences. And that generation of early 30-somethings, late 20-somethings are the people who had to get online. They had to figure it out. They had to figure out how to keep going when the world stopped. And I think that their willingness to think outside the box, to think outside of how opera has been in the past in terms of being, slightly exclusionary, and figuring out how to welcome more people in, that is how we are going to move forward. It's going to depend on companies like yours listening to their local audiences. What works for you isn't going to work for an opera company in the middle of, Cincinnati. What works for you doesn't work for Washington National Opera, right? So all of us pretending that there's some cookie cutter formula to solve this problem, that's actually the opposite of what's going to solve it. It's listening to the people who are going to come buy your tickets. And that's where going back to what your target audience is as a marketer. See, I'm like the hammer with the nail. Going back to who your target audience is, how you solve their problems, and how you enrich their lives is what is going to make opera continue to flourish. And then also accepting that what opera needs to become as we move into the future to meet modern audiences where they are at is what is going to save it. Not trying to preserve it like it's some museum piece that has to be the same as it was when it premiered 100 years ago.
Right.
What do you think about reaching modern audiences and how we do that moving forward?
I think it'd be silly to tell ourselves that we're trying to get opera to take over the world. That's not going to happen.
No.
It's the audience for opera is definitely going to be relatively small compared to other things, like rock and roll and jazz and Taylor Swift and all that. That's fine.
Yeah.
And I think the audiences are growing, but I think we have to accept the fact that being sustainable is is primarily a business consideration. You have to survive before you thrive.
Yeah.
So just be reasonable with what your expectations are.
Right.
And especially be reasonable about your expectations for growth. I think the way to reach audiences is by doing what we do best: tell great stories and great music, and tell them passionately. I don't really know that there is any spectacular move that can drastically change the
No.
equation. Not, at least not. I mean, it can change a season, or
Yeah.
it can change. You can get a lot of publicity for doing a stunt,
Yeah.
but it doesn't move you forward long term.
Yeah.
I think it's you said things are changing, and to me, it says like, what I'm interested in is the things that don't change. The things that don't change is that people love great singing. We are the only place, probably the only place, from all the arts and live music and all that, where you can actually hear the human voice in this full glory, unamplified. I always think about when we have kids coming to study matinee. I was like, those kids have actually never heard a singer singing without a mic. It's a different thing. Great stories, great music. Take calculated risks, take chances. Bring your audience along by taking them by the hand, not by running 100 feet ahead of them.
Yep.
And remember that you're doing this to move people. And I think, and just really believe in it. And that's why I think that's. But I'm very heartened to hear what you're saying about the role of artists that have had the same experience, that have been at the same place, because one would be tempted to. A few times I remembered Gertrude Stein and Ernest Hemingway, two of them kind of together but not intentionally coined the term lost generation. In a way, their dreams were crushed because of World War I, and I think to some degree, a lot of dreams were crushed during the pandemic, but they don't have to remain
No.
in pieces. There is a way to let's rebuild the world and make it better.
You know, it's really interesting that you mentioned this, and I don't know if this will be relevant to like this whole conversation, but I remember being here.
Right.
And like I was going for a run and I was having that like freak out, that like, oh my God, there isn't enough work. Like it's so hard to get an agent. It's so hard to get any like performing opportunities. Like at least I have Opera Santa Barbara, like thank God. But I kind of like had this download from the universe that was like, what if you stopped trying to fit into a box? What if you stopped trying to climb a ladder that doesn't exist anymore? And I literally felt the whole world open up for me. And it was amazing how just making the realization that I could be myself entirely and be within this industry without trying to like fit into something that just was never going to fit me, completely changed my life and my world.
Speaking about not fitting in anything, you have a big role debut coming up.
I sure do.
And it's you're going to be singing the role of Santuccia in our opening production of Cavalleria Rusticana.
Yes.
Which is a lot of people consider Santuccia a kind of a rite of passage.
Yes.
Role.
Yes.
It's a very iconic role, and it's also kind of a departure from what you've done in the past. Now, for Tim and me, this is not surprising because since you've been here, we sort of thought that precisely what you said. It's like I told you once, I don't even really believe in the term soprano and mezzo-soprano.
Right.
You sing what you sing.
Yeah.
I mean, sounds good, I don't care what your voice is. But even so, Santuccia is kind of a big deal.
She sure is.
So tell us about that. What's going on? How are you preparing? How do you feel about it? What are the opportunities, the challenges? You know, and I'm happy to sit here and listen because it's really one of my favorite operas.
I know. Oh my God. Let's not add too much pressure on it.
I think the pressure's on.
Yeah. So for me, I started like dipping my toe in this repertoire a few years ago, and I was like, not quite yet. And
but since a lot of our fans who are watching don't understand what you mean by this repertoire.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so we're not talking to the voice teachers here. We're talking about the people who are gonna come here. Maybe people have never seen Cavallero. So what we're talking about is like songs are songs, right?
Right, songs are songs, but some songs are bigger and louder than other songs, and this is one of those.
Okay.
I don't know. I'm going to say something really controversial. I don't know that I believe in dramatic voices. I don't know that that is a thing.
You can elaborate on that all you want, but you're going to have to explain what you mean to people who don't understand what that means.
So, a dramatic voice, supposedly, is one that could sing louder than any other voice, can be heard over a really big orchestra in a really big hall, no matter what.
Right.
To me, there has been such a wide array of people who have sung what is considered dramatic repertoire over the decades that when they started out would never have been considered a quote-unquote dramatic voice, right?
Right.
Tatiana Troyanos was singing octavians and componistes and carabinos. So was Christa Ludwig, represent mezzos, by the way. If you don't know who those people are, go to YouTube. You will not be disappointed.
We'll put links in the comments.
Good job. Good
Thank
job. And so
I've been watching a lot of sailing videos.
yeah. And so while this is certainly a departure from singing an octavian, singing a carabino, which are my two most recent roles, which are kind of, I don't know how to describe it any other way, slightly smaller repertoire.
Right.
I really feel like this, especially this higher sitting, bigger repertoire, is like a coming home. Like it feels finally like the place where my voice is meant to be. And I am working on that by studying diligently, practicing every day. I even started, get this, a weightlifting training to be able to make sure that I have the physical stamina in my support to get through this role.
Right.
And I'm really, really adamant about making sure that I do those things every day and do the work every day so that when it comes time to start rehearsals,
Right.
there's nothing about my body that stops me, right?
Amazing.
And at first I was a little scared because you would have to be to like taking this on for the first time. But as I've grown into it and settled into it and worked with Tim and worked with my teacher, I am so excited about it. I feel like this is like really where my voice wants to live and is happy. And so thank you to seeing it before I was ready to see it.
Yeah. Well, and thank you to Tim for being a really big advocate for you.
Yes.
In this, and obviously has guided you through
Yes,
this
absolutely.
through this journey. I think to what you said about dramatic voices, one thing that I think always people should remember. Loud and orchestra and all those things are actually relative. Mm-hmm. We perform at the Libero Theater, 600 seats, and we have a 28-piece orchestra in the pit.
Yeah.
Metropolitan Opera, on the other hand, the Lake Opera Chicago, the former is like 4,500, the latter is 3,600 seats. Mm-hmm. For Cavalleria, they'll probably have 80 piece. Mm-hmm. I think so. The loud and there's a lot to discuss there.
Yeah.
About when loud is relative. I think the ultimately what matters is delivering the experience mm-hmm. that the audience expects based on the material
yes.
of the piece. There is also would say that dramatic voice is not just the volume; it's also the way it spins, the way it conveys passion, the way it conveys a sense of occasion. I mean, I think the Inagiamo, the Easter hymn of Cavalleria mm-hmm. is one of the most iconic moments in all yes. opera, and then and it's Santuccia is riding the wave.
Mm-hmm.
I will never forget working on Cavalleria at the Lake Opera Chicago, and Dora Zajic was Santuccia, and it was
such a beast.
It was like probably 100. There's probably 80-piece band in the pit, and then there was the on-stage chorus and the off-stage chorus, and it's like everybody's letting it rip, and the only thing you can hear is Dolora.
Yeah, and you know what's so interesting is when I studied with her, she said, "I don't have a big voice. I have a resonant voice." Yes,
exactly. She's a technician, so I think it's loud's relative, and
right.
also you want to be, and also loud is a color,
right?
Really.
Right.
And soft is a color,
right?
It's you have to be able to do both.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I mean, because there's no music that is just loud.
No. Well, and even watching like Simeonato's performance of it on YouTube, I sat there and I said, okay, everyone's obsessed with like the volume when it comes to this. She doesn't play in volume. She only plays in colors. And that has been one of the most interesting things, especially watching her, to like, as I've learned this role, that's really the recording I keep going back to. Because I feel like so often when it came to this repertoire, when I was younger, it was like volume, volume, volume. And it was always a conversation about the volume of the voice and never about like how many different colors do you have to play with. And watching her, she has like an endless spectrum of what she can do with it. And it's just so much more interesting than worrying about how loud you are.
Yeah. Like I said before, I think the opera is one of the very few places, I think, left in this world where you can go and you can listen to quiet music. Yeah. And that another thing, I'm talking a lot about the Lyric Opera Chicago today, but that's fine. Another unforgettable experience from the Lyric is Il Trovatore, in that the recording that has been recorded, I think, for Deutsche Grammophon, and it was Jennifer Wilson was Leonora, and Armiliata was the conductor.
Oh man!
In the last act, her last act aria, I was sitting way in the back in a packed 3,600 seat house, and she sang so softly, and the orchestra matched her. And you could hear these walls. I mean, the theater is our instrument. You can feel the music all around you, and it's so soft, and everybody's so quiet, and people aren't even coughing, which is unheard of. So that kind of magic you cannot get anywhere.
You cannot.
And I think that's and Trovatore is another loud one, right?
Yeah, it's another. So, we did that one.
We did that one. It was loud.
Yeah.
But we also did soft.
Yeah.
So I think part of it, so the dramatic is, I think, it's the spectrum and the experience. I think it's the thrill that I think we could talk about dramatic voices is can you really tell a story that's bigger than life? Can you really kind of, so I think that's, so I'm so looking forward to this.
I'm really excited.
It's really one of my favorite operas. I haven't done it. It's going to be 20 years since I did it last.
Wow.
And
wait, so Delora was your last?
No, well, when I conducted.
Oh, okay.
I conducted the Cavalleria. The Cavalleria in Chicago that I assisted the late great Bruno Bartoletti and Maestro Don Palombo was in 2000, a year before that.
Got it.
And of course, it was just, I remember every moment of that. Every moment of that. It's like going to school.
Right.
So I'm really looking forward to it. I'm actually working on the produced orchestration as we speak.
Oh.
Every note of it I'm doing myself.
Amazing.
I wouldn't let anybody else touch it. And I'm having such a great time.
Awesome.
And I'm going to be finished early, which I'm going to make Tim very happy. And that's on November 7th and 9th at the Libero Theater. We're going to be a link in the comments. And Max Potter will star as Santuzza. Before we close, you get to ask me one question.
So, my question is, as someone who has supported me in all ventures of my life, as an artist, as a singer, and also as an entrepreneur, why do you believe in supporting artists who are advocates and leaders outside of just the rehearsal room and on stage?
I believe art exists primarily because artists want to create it. You sing because you have to sing. You're going to sing whether I pay you to do so or not, right?
Yep.
You look at the great composers. Yeah, they made it. Some of them made a living. Some of them sort of made a living. Some of them made a fortune. But that's not why they were writing music. They were writing music because they had to.
Yeah.
So the fact that it's a profession doesn't mean that it's. So I think in the center of any artistic endeavor is the artist. That's why we do this. The most important person is the artist. I also think that artists are extremely smart and can learn a lot of things. And I believe that artists can be great business people because they have the passion. Otherwise, they wouldn't be doing it. And they're smart enough to figure out what they need to learn. They have the work ethic because to play the piano, play the violin, sing, you need to practice a lot. You need to give up a lot of, that work-life balance thing, forget about it. They just practice all day. I mean, I was a pianist, not a very good one, but I practiced. So, because they're passionate, because they're curious, because they're smart. They like in our world of the arts administration or whatever, you hear this sentence. Run it like a business. Now, Audrey Bergauer wrote a great book with that title. So that book is every time you hear this sentence being said, you kind of run and hide because it's always so misconstrued. But Audrey Bergauer's book was great. But what I was going to say about, yes, you have to run it like a business because it is a business. But the way to do that is to teach the artists to be the business people.
Yes.
Run it like a business doesn't mean bring someone from the outside, bring a banker, bring a lawyer and run the place. The business, the art has to be inoculated. It has to be hacked with the business skills.
Yes.
And I think if artists can't run the world, at least they can run opera companies.
Right. Right.
Is that good enough answer?
Yeah, well, and also because as an artist who not only performs professionally, but also is involved in the business side of it, it makes you understand why things happen the way they do. You feel much more empowered to advocate for yourself when you actually understand that these companies are, like, they run a certain way and why they run the way they do, or why the people running them think the way they do, whether you agree with it or not. Right? And so suddenly the field becomes infinitely less scary because you're not just seeing it through only the lens of like, gee, I hope I get hired, gee, I wish I had a bigger season, right? You start seeing it from the perspective of how do these companies sell tickets? How do these companies reach their audiences? And when you start putting all of that together in the brain of an artist, you kind of become unstoppable because you're not just coming at it from one angle.
So, this was a lot of fun.
Thank you.
Let's do it again sometime.
Yeah, sounds good.
And so this was the second episode of On Deck with Maestro. I'm Kostis Protopapas. This is Max Potter, and behind the cameras is the lovely Julia Lieberman, company manager of Opera Santa Barbara. Please like, subscribe to the channel, and leave us your comments. By the way, thank you for those who commented last time. To my friend Mort, there will be a tour of the inside of Sparrow eventually, but right now we are redoing the upholstery. So it's kind of halfway there. So this is not one of those sailing videos where you people show you how they take apart the sailboat and put it back together. We want this to be kind of like, Martha Stewart when we show it. So thanks everybody for joining us. Please come back and have a great day.